Hello, welcome to Middle Path Recovery Project's YouTube channel. Today we're going to be discussing why so many people feel stuck, some harsh truths about modern recovery practices. And what I'm about to say is going to challenge a lot of what people have been taught about addiction and recovery. Let me ask you, have you been working the program, taking it one day at a time, showing up as regularly as possible, telling yourself you're an addict every day, giving up all your power, and wondering why it's not working? Well, let me tell you a secret. So are most people who are caught up in this same outdated recovery model. Look, it's going to take me about 10 minutes to explain why so many people feel stuck and reveal what I believe is the harsh truth about modern recovery practices. So, if you can stay with me for a few minutes, this may completely change the way you think about modern recovery and could become actually the catalyst for long-term recovery and lasting transformation for you. And hey, if you're still here, please like and subscribe, and let's have a conversation. If you disagree with me, tell me why in the comments. If you agree, go ahead and share your story. There's probably others who would benefit from it. Um, some of you also probably know someone who's currently struggling, and by simply engaging with it or sharing this video, um, you're definitely helping the algorithm reach more people who may need it the most. So just a few clicks, comments, or shares genuinely gives you the opportunity to help others, and it helps me too. So I appreciate that. Okay, so I spent nearly 25 years in active addiction, all kinds of, all of the destructive patterns and all the stuff that goes along with that. So my perspective on the 12-step model comes directly from years of lived experience, both personally and professionally. So I've participated in NA programs, AA groups, worked with sponsors, attended meetings, and was even in a couple of inpatient treatment programs. And now as a man in long-term recovery over the past 15 years, I've also worked alongside, folks in substance abuse treatment centers and community health organizations where I met hundreds of people navigating addiction and recovery, each with their own story and perspective and outcomes. So through countless conversations over coffee and treatment, and in those quiet moments when, people felt safe enough to share and be honest, I listened. So all of this, my own experience and the stories of those I've walked alongside has led me to the perspective that I'm sharing with you now. So yes, this is my opinion, but it's an opinion that's shaped by a broad spectrum of voices, observation, and real world outcomes. Look, I know people who have found success abstaining from their substance of choice through the 12 steps, but many of them, if they're being honest, are still suffering, still miserable. Why, you ask? Because abstinence alone is not healing. Most people I met, regardless of how long they'd been with AA or NA, still felt emotionally trapped or disconnected, deeply discontent, almost as if they were serving a life sentence. Some still struggled with anxiety or anger or unresolved emotional pain. Others felt physically unhealthy still, purposeless, lost, or trapped, and the limiting belief cycle that they somehow must be fundamentally flawed. All of this, like what keeps people stuck in these unhealthy patterns, became the driving force behind my desire to envision a better, more person centered, whole person approach to recovery. Because abstinence alone is not the same as healing and transformation. One of the biggest problems I see in modern recovery practice is that they focus heavily on symptom management while underemphasizing whole person transformation, right? So, yes, stopping a destructive behavior matters. Obviously, that's important. But it's different for everybody, right? There's levels of it on how you stop and all of those things. But removing a substance does not automatically create a healthy and balanced life. However, things like emotional intelligence, self awareness, purpose, right? What gives our life meaning, nervous system regulation, physical wellness, healthy relationships, inner peace, meaningful direction in life. These are the things that ultimately lead to happiness and contentment. So again, you can stop a behavior, but it still doesn't stop your suffering necessarily. And honestly, I think this is why so many people feel stuck because most people utilizing traditional recovery methods are laser focused on how to avoid things, are incessantly focused on stopping using substances, or incessantly focused on stopping a behavior. but not how to build a life that feels meaningful, balanced, healthy, and fulfilling. A life that no longer requires escaping from. Another big shift for me in my own journey, and now in the conversations that I also have with my clients, is this. Instead of asking what's wrong with me, we should be asking a much deeper question. What happened to me? That changes the entire conversation because addiction is deeply connected to trauma, emotional pain, disconnection, unhealthy environments, which all lead to serious nervous system dysregulation, right? Yet traditional recovery approaches don't normally acknowledge these deeper causes and conditions of our suffering. This is why I became interested in mindfulness, meditation, self awareness, emotional intelligence, holistic wellness practices, and, like I said, nervous system regulation. Not just as little extra side pieces, no. Like these are the foundation of long term recovery and lasting behavior change. And look, I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Gabor Mate, but he has worked with literally thousands of people struggling with substance use disorder and alcoholism, often alongside co occurring mental health challenges. And what he observed was something extremely profound. And it's also something that nobody really wants to talk about. Look, not everyone who experiences trauma becomes addicted, but everyone who becomes addicted has experienced trauma, period. So I'll add this. Chances are, whether you remember it or not, you have experienced some kind of mild or maybe even extreme trauma. Or adverse childhood experiences is another way to look at, also known as ACEs. That's why I and the middle path method that I teach strongly recommend working with a licensed therapist, to help you uncover the deeper reasons behind your suffering, right? The causes and conditions. What caused me to need to use these substances to medicate? So, but until we address that, we might remain stuck. So there you have it. That's what almost nobody wants to talk about. And it's one of the biggest reasons why so many people remain trapped in the vicious cycle of addiction. If you want to learn more about ACEs, watch Dr. Nadine Burke's TED Talk. It's called How Childhood Trauma Affects Health Across a Lifetime. I'll link it below. It's really powerful, and it may completely change how you understand your own situation. Unfortunately, it raises an even bigger question. Why isn't this one of the first things that we address when someone begins their recovery journey? Because I believe outcomes across nearly every recovery modality would improve dramatically if we just started there. Look, I'm not going to get into it today, but stay tuned because in the future videos, I'll discuss what I believe is really going on there and why we're not addressing those right off the bat. And remember, Middle Path Recovery Project is not a substitute for professional counseling or therapy. In fact, I believe therapy, uh, you know, and counseling can be one of the most important tools that somebody has while they're trying to understand the deeper causes and conditions of their suffering. But therapy alone wasn't enough for me, right? I also needed practical tools to help me better understand my thoughts and emotions, regulate my nervous system, improve my physical health, reconnect with purpose, and begin creating a life that no longer required escaping from, right? That was huge. So over time, as I explored these different approaches and looked for what actually produced lasting change, certain patterns began to emerge. And eventually, those patterns evolved into what I now call the middle path method. The middle path method is a more person centered, whole person focused approach to recovery, wellness, and transformation. It integrates behavioral neuroscience, trauma awareness, emotional intelligence, whole body wellness practices, a daily meditation practices, uh, spirituality, and discovering your true nature or your purpose in life. The ancient philosophy of the middle path and harm reduction, a path that encourages us to avoid destructive extremes while cultivating greater balance, awareness, health, and contentment. Look, before I end, maybe a better question isn't why can't I stop? Maybe the better question is actually what happened to me and what still needs to heal. Because if we continue focusing only on stopping the behavior while ignoring the deeper causes and conditions that caused it, people will continue being stuck and people will continue suffering in addiction. All right, I hope that was helpful. And there's more to come, so stay tuned because in upcoming videos, we're going to explore many more concepts that help me let go of many destructive patterns, help me better understand myself, and begin creating a more meaningful, purposeful life rooted in awareness, purpose, real health, and wellness, all leading to long term recovery and lasting transformation. Also, if these conversations resonate with you, my upcoming book, Middle Path Recovery Project, explores all of these ideas in much greater detail. So just click the link below to my website and join the email list for book pre-sale updates, release announcements, and early information about the upcoming Middle Path Method virtual community. You guys, this is going to be huge, and I'm super excited about it. This community is being designed as a supportive recovery and wellness ecosystem, providing real person support, connection, accountability, all through various weekly group coaching calls, one-on-one peer support, all kinds of practical recovery and wellness tools, and a huge collection of valuable resources to help individuals create meaningful and lasting change, all for their own unique recovery journey. Right? Everybody's different. Everybody has a unique journey, and that's what's so great about the middle path method. It allows people to adapt to their specific personality. Um, and also, there's a valuable gift for you there as well. So when you sign up, be sure to download the free recovery wellness plan designed to help you support your recovery and wellness journey. And look, if you need direct support or more information about anything I discussed, or if you want to have a discussion or even a debate, please reach out. I'm here to help.